Thanks for coming back to the table. We're talking about HPV and cervical cancer, cancer that comes from the human papillomavirus, right? Is that how you say that? Dr. Smith is an integrative gynecologist. Tanya is a survivor, a survivor. I want to talk about what the symptoms are. Like, how do you know if it's this common and there's not is there something obvious? And is it different between men and women?
Sure. Well, so when we talk about HPV, there's two main categories of HPV. So there's the high-risk types; those are the ones that are more associated with cervical cancer. And unfortunately, there's no symptom. There's no sign or symptom for HPV until you have a pap smear and it's found on the cervix, because it's asymptomatic, basically.
Yeah.
Right? But there's another kind that's associated with genital warts.
Okay.
And so that kind, you can see that there's, external warts for men or women. And so that way you may have the idea that you've been exposed to HPV, but those kind are not the kind that actually are associated with the cervix cancer.
Okay.
So there's the vaccine that's received, fortunately, vaccinates against both the warty type as well as the precancerous type.
So the one that, I just want to make sure I'm clear, because this is a lot here.
Sure.
You need to go back and watch this episode. I'm going to tell you right now. Go to Portia.com. You don't have to watch this one again for sure. The ones that where you see warts, that is not the same one that could lead to a cancer.
Correct.
What about the vaccine? Did you have a vaccine? Doc, was she even eligible at that time?
I did not. I didn't even know that there was a vaccine available, and I didn't even know the HPV virus was what caused, which I didn't even know that HPV virus accompanied with stress
just
caused the cancer, cervical cancer. So I didn't even know anything about it until they told me that HPV and stress, but mainly the stress.
And so I do want to get to the point, though, where when it's all said and done, there's several steps to this, right? And several steps of treatment. But for you, you're good and in the clear, right?
I am clear of HPV. I'm clear of cancer. My GYN oncologist called me on the 23rd and said, hey, you are clear. You no longer have the virus. You no longer have cancer. You can go out to the general public, back to a regular GYN, and continue your life as is.
Congratulations and amen, because I know there was a lot of prayer and a lot of faith that sort of kept you going through this.
Yeah.
Just believing in positive outcomes.
Yeah. All I had was prayer. My grandmother, when I was going through the CT scan and they saw that the cancer had spread to the lymph nodes, I talked to my grandmother and she was just like, Tanya, you remember the story in the Bible where the man prayed for 15 more years? I need you to pray for those 15
keep praying.
years.
And you had a lot of people praying with you. You have this beautiful son, your girlfriends, you had a whole village of prayer warriors, right?
I did.
We see your son here. So listen, Dr. Smith, when we talk about these treatment options, and there were a lot of steps as Tanya has mentioned.
Absolutely.
What course of treatment options, what do you end up doing most often?
Sure. Well, as a general gynecologist, I wind up having to refer to GYN oncologists, just the same way they did with Tanya, but there are steps that are taken prior to treatment, right? So the first thing that must happen is the confirmatory test. We talked about that pap smear screens, and then an additional test such as colposcopy or conionization is necessary for confirming that the abnormality that's seen on the pap. And then you have to stage the cancer. So cervical cancer is staged prior to actually going into surgery, which you take the steps, the doctor will order CAT scans and some x-rays of the kidneys to determine where the cancer might be housed. And from that point, then a treatment decision is obtained.
So is it curable, so to speak? You know how we are. We're like, can we cure it? What do you take? You take vitamins. Do you take some other things? What else can you do?
Sure. So the good news is, yes, cervical cancer is curable, as we have a living, breathing example of that here. So it's very curable. HPV, not so much, right? We don't necessarily say we're going to be able to cure it all the time, but over time, the body can clear it, and with some of the therapies that Tanya has had, then her body was able to clear it. So there's not if you get diagnosed with HPV, there's not one simple, here's the prescription, or here's some vitamins, or here's one surgery that can be done to say, now we're going to clear it and remove it from the body, because it can lie dormant for years. It can be something that you contract in adolescence, and or whenever you become active, and then it lies dormant, and you never know about it until later.
But that's why a lot of pediatricians, right, are then telling you, you get the surprise, hey, do you want to get this vaccine for your middle schooler? And you're like, my middle schooler? But it's because...
Absolutely. Well, it's because the vaccination is only effective before you've been exposed to HPV. So they want to get adolescents, young people, before their first exposure. So the earlier the better, sort of. So that it's recommended now at age 11 to 12, and in girls and boys, right? Because boys can also have HPV-related cancers. So we are talking about the female cervical cancer, but in males, HPV can also cause cancer.
What does the boys, just quickly before we go to break, and we'll come back to it, what does cancer look like for the boys?
Sure. So boys can have cancer in the genital region, oral cancers, rectal cancers. There can be all cancers for males and female in any of those areas.
Gotcha. We're going to pause right here. So many questions. That's why the conversation is going to continue right after this break. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I really want to thank you for season 3 of Portia. It's because of loyal viewers like you that we keep getting to share this daily dose of positivity all across the country. So just a reminder, I still need you to like, comment, and subscribe. And go ahead and tell your friends. You can catch us now in Orlando, in San Francisco, in Atlanta, and all across the country on Fox Soul. Tell your friends. We'll see you soon on Portia.